Talk to James Matthews, who is at the White House. And James, on the one hand, with China, it is a real fight between those two countries now, the biggest two economies in the world. But the 90-day pause that a lot of people were suggesting, Donald Trump, it seems, has backed down on that.
Yeah, back down would be one interpretation, Mark. I suppose what he is looking for is some degree of coherence in the strategy moving forward. And looking at these markets, as you've just been describing, perhaps they are taking heart from that, a degree of certainty, signs of a strategy that they can trust moving forward amidst all the uncertainty and the whiplash from Donald Trump, the changes on a daily basis. Now we have a situation where he has announced this pause. That gives the United States the opportunity to corral its allies around its particular plan. Up until now, we've had a situation where Donald Trump had everybody in his sights. There were no allies in this tariff fight. So as things have grown towards this standoff between the United States and China, other countries have been making their own assessments in self-interest as to who was going to win that particular contest in the long term and where their interests lay in the long term. Bearing in mind that China was exercising its muscle and also beginning to look like the more benign, generous player in this fight. So I think to that extent, it is diplomatically clever, perhaps. Time will tell, but it just gives everyone a chance to cool their jets for American allies to look to Trump as somebody they can do business with, out with the pressure cooker environment. Donald Trump, for 90 days at least, won't have a gun to their head, and that will improve the atmosphere for negotiation, if nothing less. But also, I think, Mark, and the markets, don't take my word for it, take the markets' words for it. They think this is a positive move, and that has to help Donald Trump in a situation where increasingly the drumbeat has been getting louder, suggestions that this was a president who didn't know where he was taking this strategy. I'm standing at the White House today. Donald Trump will be holding a photo call later with the racing fraternity, and that was all shaping up to be very awkward, actually, because, you know, the Haas racing team, they have a Formula One racing team, big name in racing. Well, their main supplier, the Haas production company that deals with their machine parts, they've released a statement in the past 24 hours saying that we're feeling a significant impact from what Donald Trump has done. So that's awkward. That would be question number one for Trump this afternoon. Also, you have, serious players, supporters of Donald Trump. Jamie Dimon, CEO of J.P. Morgan, he's been on Fox Business this morning. That's no coincidence. They know he watches Fox Business. They want to communicate directly with the president, to scream their warnings directly to him. Jamie Dimon, serious player, saying this morning it was likely he thought that the U.S. was heading towards recession. So that's been the kind of environment. The pushback from the White House and their line, their PR line, clearly designed in the bowels of the building where they map out the marketing strategy. This line, we're looking at Main Street, not Wall Street. I've heard that from a number of White House players in the past 24 hours. That's been the kind of message they've been trying to sell. That only stretches so far when all around, outside the White House, are making dire warnings about how this was all heading south. So that's been the kind of context of this, and that is the context for what Donald Trump has announced in the past 20 minutes. The markets seem to like it. In terms of the wider world, other countries queuing up, more than 70, we're told. We'll see how that plays with them. But it has to help the environment for negotiation, if nothing else, and that is a good starting point going forward.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking at the markets and the dollar climbing to James. The dollar certainly climbing against the yen, climbing against the Swiss franc. And so dollar strengthening, markets on the way up. But, James, and it is a very big but, you have the two biggest economies in the world in the midst of well, it's either a dangerous game of chicken or it is a real full-on trade war. And now he's just upped the tariff to China to 125%, just hours after China lifted the tariffs to 84%. So yes, the pause is going to help, and yes, the markets will, well, they are right there, strengthening. But that trade war between the United States of America and China, who knows which way that is going to go and where that is going to end, James?
Yeah, I mean, one would imagine, and I think the way the Americans are trying to work it is that they want ultimately a coming together in a way that suits the United States and portrays Donald Trump as the winner in all of this. Bear in mind, he's been a man who has been styled as the weaker, uncoordinated player in this particular game. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he was on one of the right-wing news channels this morning. You know, a difficult interview, I have to say. These interviews, over time, Mark, they do have this air of hostage video about them, as, you know, typically friendly news outlets nail to the wall the people around Donald Trump, asking difficult questions, and that reflects itself, I think, a concern across the wider society where this has all been going. But there are no easy questions, and that's been Donald Trump's trouble. There are no easy questions for him in all of this. We're talking now about the United States and China and where it's going globally. The story of the day here in the White House, I've heard questions asked of White House officials, has been about farmers. You know, are they going to be compensated? The point I heard made was that, OK, you've got 70 countries who will be discussing a way forward, but one of those countries, of course, is not China. And China as a country on whom large parts of the agricultural sector rely for their trade, for their business. So, you know, fundamental flaws, really, in terms of the detail moving forward. It's been a difficult environment in which to operate for Donald Trump. The questions have been persistent, consistent, and have got more difficult over time. This gives him a breathing space in all sorts of ways to conduct negotiations in a more calm, peaceful environment, to present himself as a deal maker to allies, because bear in mind, this could be a long and bitter trade war. He needs allies on his side. So strategically, you know, there is a value, and you can see the beauty in it for Donald Trump. Where it goes with the United States and China, we'll see. Scott Bessent, in that interview, he made the point that President Xi and Donald Trump were big friends. You know, there was an olive branch of sorts. That friendship is going to do some heavy lifting, isn't it? It's going to have to get through this trade war, a trade war that Donald Trump will feel that he has to win for all sorts of reasons, both economic and, of course, politically.